All right, here is the January 2020 Home Assistant update. So we're going to look at my basic layout of the Lovelace UI and just how I have a few things set up. So here's Home Assistant. So to start with, we'll start with the People at Home section here. So this shows everyone that's at home. Currently, me and Sam both have the apps on our phones, and that's how it tracks us primarily. But the secondary method of tracking is Wi-Fi. So what I've done is I've gone through all the family members that visit us, and I've added all their MAC IDs from the Unify integration so that I know when they're here based on when they're connected to my Wi-Fi. So in this case, currently Sam's mom is here, and it shows up on the People at Home tab. So sometimes this can populate if a whole bunch of families over. There can be a bunch of rows here of people. And when it's just us, it's just me and Sam. So we got our master control section here. Pretty straightforward. Home alarm, some master of all lights. So if I need everything to turn on, I can just flick this switch. Overnight lights and evening lights are outdoor groups. We've got an override so that the auto off does not take effect in case there's guests over and we want the outside lights to stay on a little bit later. Ghost mode, self-explanatory. That basically mimics all the automations as if someone was at home. Christmas mode, same idea, runs the Christmas automations, and so on and so forth. These are all pretty self-explanatory. People at home, these are people who live here. Shows who's here at each given time. This is for some of the automations, the heating and cooling automations, which I will not get into today. Here's our main floor controls. So we got our thermostat, which can pop up there. We've got some lighting, Christmas tree. The smart plug's still plugged into the wall, although the Christmas tree is not there, but it still will show that it's on because the relay's on. The USB is the smart power bar. It has some USB ports which are controllable. We got the upstairs options here. So these are mainly our bedroom and office controls. Same thing, we got another smart power bar up here, which controls a few different things. We got our basement, which has the dehumidifier in it, which is all custom controlled through Node-RED, but I can see the status and all that here. And then, of course, a big slew of outdoor lighting. So that's the gist of it, of the landing page. We can go to security here. So this is integrated with my DSC alarm system with Invisalink, and then we also have a whole bunch of RF 433 megahertz sensors that have been added and are running through a RF bridge. Sorry, tip of my tongue there. The Sonoff RF bridge running Tasmota firmware. So that's what does my leak sensors. My main smoke alarms are all hardwired, and there's a relay that opens when they're triggered, which triggers the alarm system. It'll show up here. And then the wireless smoke alarms are just some cheapo 433 megahertz ones that I've thrown in a few random spots that normally wouldn't have one, but I figured why not. And then yeah, so this is basically my all my sensors. Everything's closed at the moment, and then I got my shed alarm status, which I should actually make a video about because it's got its own alarm control panel that's installed out there, which is all set up through Node-RED. But what it does is it monitors whether the home alarm's armed or disarmed, or if there's people home or not. And based on that data, it will choose whether it should arm the shed door or not. Thermostats, just a bigger view of my my different rooms. I'm not going to go in tracker, but that's basically just tracker data from the iOS app. We've got some AV info here. So my receiver in the living room is networked, and my Google Home. And we got my Plex data, and then Apple TV, the Plex app, which shows what it's doing. This one's really interesting. This is my do-it-yourself power monitoring system. So this has got two current transformers clamped onto the mains coming into the house, which are connected to an Arduino. And it reports every 1 or 2 seconds through MQTT and gives me a very quick and real-time view of my home's power usage. And then last but not least, this was the UI I started putting together for the tablet, which eventually will be mounted on the wall. And eventually I will have a tablet to mount on the wall, but it's just got some bigger touch friendly buttons and just all my basic information that I want to know. So that's about the most or the gist of it. We've got Grafana installed. I haven't opened it for a while, so hopefully it works. Oh, okay, here we go. Perfect. So I've got my temperature data and my my power data in here, and this gives me a much more beautiful and way of looking at this data than the Home Assistant graphs in the Lovelace UI. So we can look at the last few minutes. It looks a little bit funny because these don't report change. It only reports changes, so that if you've got a long section with no change, it doesn't show up here, which I haven't figured out how to fix. But if I go back like 6 hours, there's obviously lots of changes, so that the graphs look full. But anyways, I just thought this app is really cool for analyzing data. And of course, like, we can go back a year, which obviously is going to look absolutely pointless because that's way too much data. But you can also do time frames. So if I want to see, let's say, all the temperatures for the day on the 3rd, and then I can also put in time. So let's say I want to see from midnight till 5 a.m. I'll just zero out all this and then hit apply, and then it should show. It'll also show my power usage. So I'll just give it a second and wait for it to refresh, although that does not appear to be applying for some reason. Oh, no, I don't know what I've done. Let's try that again. Let's just try for the day and see if that does it. I guess this goes to show you should always test things before you make a video about them, but this theoretically should work. Anyway, so yeah, currently I only have sensor data in there, temperature and power, but I plan to add a bunch more at some point. And that's the gist of it. I'm not going to go into too much detail about all the different configurations or anything like that. You can see there's some motion there in the living room. So what I've got is alarm sensors that just kind of pop up there, and on my tablet interface as they detect doors or motion or water or whatever the sensor in question is reporting. And yeah, I guess the other thing I'll show you is the ESPHome interface that I'm using for all my light switches. I don't know why none of them should really say offline, but sometimes they lag out and they go to offline for a bit and then they come back. These are my 2 upstairs sensors, which power, they go into deep sleep, so they basically go offline, online, offline, online all day. And then these are all full-time online. This one in theory should be as well, but I'm not sure why it's not. But these are actually light switches that are installed in my doors, and I can actually bring up kind of the data here that kind of shows me what's going on and their IP address and all that fun stuff. I've recently adopted ESPHome. Everything else used to be Tasmota, but I'm really enjoying the ESPHome experience. All right, so I think that's the gist of it, and yeah, hopefully that enlightens anyone that wants to know how my home assistant setup is.